Hello, and thank you for being here in what is part 1 of my 6 steps to writing a screenplay. Now, it is hardwired in us as humans to receive life lessons, learn about value systems, and experience emotion through story. Quite naturally, we dream stories, recount anecdotes as stories, and much of what's taught of the craft of storytelling hasn't really changed from what Aristotle outlined around 330 BCE. Now, there are loads of great books, sites, channels and podcasts on writing, and this is my own amalgamation of lessons that particularly resonated with me, which I've tried to organise in a way that feels practical. All that said, art is more art than science. We have rules and forms and best practices, but even these are open to interpretation. And bear in mind that the rules themselves do exist to be broken in the right circumstances. So let's start right at the beginning, your premise. This is the thing that got you excited about writing a story in the first place. But before you jump in on page 1, spend time fine-tuning your idea. Generally, you should be able to write your premise out as an open-ended, what would happen if question. What would happen if a FedEx exec crash landed on a deserted island? A soldier fighting aliens could relive the same day every time he died. A billionaire used science to create a theme park with dinosaurs.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
For the sake of this series, let's make our own. What would happen if a superhero started to lose his powers? It's not subtle, but it'll do for the exercise. It'd be easy to think that's what your story is about, but really the premise is just the spark that made you sit down to write. To really start to focus your story, you need to find your controlling idea. This is the story's ultimate meaning. It's your message to the audience, and once you've settled on your controlling idea, it's a really powerful guide for your writing. Because if you zoom out enough, every single scene in your film should be about the controlling idea. Before we get into specifics, a bit of context to keep in mind is that as an audience, we don't really watch films to escape life, but instead to find it. Stories are equipment for living. They help us to order the chaos. Essentially, our appetite for story really is about learning about ourselves and the world around us and our value systems. Once you strip away the explosions and car chases, films and stories are an exploration of the human condition. This is why empathy is so important. We connect with the characters on screen and we live through them, so seeing them achieve their goals helps us understand our own. I'll go into our connection with the protagonist more in episode 4 of this series where we look at character, and our innate connection with story in a standalone video about the story triangle, so check out those videos for more detail. Suffice it to say, when designing our controlling idea, remember that no matter how exotic and otherworldly our premise is, the controlling idea should be grounded in the universal human experience. But what is the controlling idea? Essentially, it's the theme, and consists of a value and a cause. So you could say, perseverance is important because it helps you reach your goals.
I can do this!
You're right. I know you can.
The value can be positive or negative, and the cause is the why. I find it helps to think of it as an X because Y statement, which you're proving. Crime doesn't pay because karma is king. Take our premise. What would happen if a superhero started to lose his powers? We want to find a controlling idea that is grounded in a universal human experience. So we can already see that this particular premise about someone strong becoming weak will be a great way to explore vulnerability. So with a bit of a leap, let's say, vulnerability is important because it helps you connect with those around you. This is now the theme of our film, but there's more we should do before we start writing. The logline is absolutely vital to the life of a film. It's the essence of your story in a single sentence, and it's not just here to help you pitch your idea. It can really help you focus the direction of your story before you start to write. Its component parts are very simple. You can play with the most exciting way to word it, but what you're saying is, someone wants something and goes after it against great odds. We don't have to give our ending away, but essentially in a 3-act structure, we're giving a sense of Act 1 and 2. Our protagonist has a goal, is the setup, Act 1, and they battle a force of antagonism to try and reach it. This is Act 2. It often helps to work this around an element of irony in your plot. We've not really covered this yet, so here's a great place to use our logline to hone your plot further. Irony can be a great hook for your story. It helps us write the unpredictable and take our character through their biggest change. So in Erin Brockovich we see someone almost single-handedly brings down a power company accused of polluting the city's water supply. But then we add irony when this action is performed by the person you'd least expect to do it. An unemployed single mother becomes a legal assistant and almost single-handedly brings down a power company accused of polluting the city's water supply. See how much stronger that film becomes through adding irony. It's a person you'd least expect, or an outcome you'd least expect. It may take place in an environment you'd least expect, or a context. Look for your least expected, and use that to your advantage. And see how our logline template doesn't need to be adhered to directly. Someone wants something, which we could say is either clean water or more universally justice, which is implied, and goes after it against great odds. So let's see how much progress we can make with our story just through developing the logline. So we have a protagonist, and because of our controlling idea, we know that we're proving vulnerability leads to positive connections with others. Therefore, a protagonist's goal, whether he knows it or not, but more on that in a later episode, must be to connect with people. It's friendship or love or acceptance. We do have options here. We can focus on his struggle to regain his power, but it's a bit broad on the nose, so perhaps an underdog tale about his attempts to protect his city from the evil arch-nemesis, now without power. It's better, but still painting by numbers, and still no irony. I do think elements of both of those will play a part in the plot, but with a bit of steer from our controlling idea, we can tap into the real human story here. A superhero struggles to find his place in the world when his powers disappear. There's situational irony in the fish out of water scenario, and we're hinting in the human drama in his battle with the everyday world that he's never become accustomed to. You can already start to picture the conflict when an all-powerful being suddenly has to start paying rent, or queuing for groceries, or going on a date. But there's more space for irony. We're saying this guy's goal is to connect with others, and we know from our theme that vulnerability will be key in that, so now we need to make him our least expected protagonist. An egotistical superhero struggles to find his place in the world when his powers disappear. He has power and is too proud and egotistical to connect with the people around him. In response, they actually don't think much of him either. So suddenly when he loses his powers, he's struggling with a world and problems that are alien to him, but he's too proud to show his weakness. He struggles to show vulnerability. This becomes his character arc. So now we have a premise, a controlling idea, a mental image of what this film looks like. We have a protagonist, a goal, a struggle, a sense of irony giving a window into a character arc. Look how much we refined our story just by working on the premise, the controlling idea, and the logline. We're ready to move on to step 2, our next video where we'll cover plot. Thank you for getting through step 1, and do check out the remaining videos in this 6-part series. And please like, subscribe, comment, share. Anything you want to know more about or could be clearer, just let me know. See you next time.